Hello! Today in the lesson, we will continue to divide decimal fractions by whole numbers. But I'm going to show you a couple of interesting examples. What do we need to learn how to do? The first example looks like this. We need to divide 6 by 4. How do we perform this division? Ideally, I said we should divide a decimal fraction by a whole number. But we don't see a decimal, we see a whole number. But we remember that if I don't have a period, I can put that period in. So I'm going to write down, let's put 6 here. I can write down like 6 dots and 1 0. If you need to, you can write down another 0 and so on. It won't change the number as a result. And it will help us to divide 6 by 4. Let's perform this action. Now I need to divide 6 divided by 4. We know that we have to divide the whole part by our 4 first. The whole part is the number 6. So I divide 6 by 4. As a result, I take one of each. 1 times 4, the result is 4. 6 minus 4, that would be 2. Then we see that we have a 2 in the remainder. And we can't keep that 2. We must try to divide further. But I don't have any more signs here. But it's not for nothing that we wrote down that I can put a dot after the 6. And write down as many zeros as I need to divide. So I write down a 0. And since I need to get to that 0, and I'm hindered by this point, I have to fix this point in the quotient. And now I put the 0 down. I divide 20 by 4. And I can divide 20 by 4. I'll take 5. 5 times 4, that's 20. And notice, 20 minus 20 will give me 0. So when I divide 6 by 4, I get 1.5. Tenths. And today we learn to divide a whole number by a whole number, but at the same time applying the algorithm of dividing a decimal fraction by a whole number. And let's take one more example. Let's take a look at another example. For this, we will try to divide 17 by 200. What will be the result? Pay attention to our numbers. These are integers. But you and I remember that we can write an integer number as a decimal fraction. To do this, we need to put a dot and write as many zeros as we want. These zeros will be used to get a 0 in the remainder. Now we do the division. I divide 17 by 200. Remember that we need to divide the whole part. So 17 whole. But since we've written down that 17 is 17 ones and zeros, I'm going to put 1 0 here. There we go. So that you can see where the whole part is. So I divide 17 by 200. I can't divide 17 by 200. So in the private part, I write down 0. And I subtract. 17 minus 0, that's 17. Next, I have the next sign, the next number, that's 0, which I can to drop. But in order to get to that 0, I remember that I have to allocate an integer part. That is, I'm going to put a period. So 170. 170 I divide by 200. But again, 170 is less than 200. And I can't divide it. So again, I write down 0 in private. 0 times 200 is 0 again. I subtract it. I get 170. Then there are no numbers. But we see that we can put as many zeros as we want. So I add another 0. And I put it down. 1,700 divided by 200. Well, here I can divide 700 by 200. I have to take 8. 8 times 200. That would be 1,600. and subtract 1,600 from 1,700 and I have 100. I note that the remainder is not 0, it's 100. So I need to write down another 0. So I'm going to add another 0 here. E, and I'm going to use it. So 1,000 divided by 200. But in this case, I'm taking 5. And 5 times 200, that would be 1,000. 1,000 minus 1,000 will result in a remainder of 0. So my division is complete. I write down the answer is 0.0. 85,000. This is how we divide a decimal fraction by a whole number. And we use our zeros to do the whole number division. Next class we'll continue our study of decimals. And that's all for today. Goodbye. See you again.